Hi, my name is Brian Kearns, and this is my case study for Truman Elementary School. First, we got to identify what the problem is and also analyze why this is a problem. So, first, what do we know? First of all, we know that students are struggling with reading. We know that their scores have gone down for 3 consecutive years, and as they progress through school, their scores are getting worse as they go on and get older. We also know that teachers spend roughly about an hour a day teaching reading, and it's toward the beginning or right around recess time, so kids are getting distracted. We also know that most instruction is done as a whole class. They read one entire thing and they work on worksheets or something for it. There's no differentiation for students that are struggling and for students that are excelling. It's all just treated as one. We also know that parents are getting really frustrated with this. Some things that we need to know. We need to know first off is what are the most effective and up-to-date teaching methods that we can use. We need to know how receptive teachers are to change because there's a lot of teachers that just don't want to change the way they are. And we also need to know how supportive parents are at home with reading. Do they read at home with their kids or do they not? How much time do they spend with it? Because that all plays a role into how well students perform. So, what is the problem that we're facing? I really boil it down to there's two main problems that we're facing here. The first one being is how do we help students with raising their reading ability and get them up to grade level? That is first and foremost what we need to focus on is how we can help these students improve their lives, especially when it comes to reading. And second of all is how do we get teachers on board with with this plan? How do we get teachers to challenge students and to help them succeed? So, my plan of action there's three main points to it. First is we need to adopt current reading teaching practices as outlined by the reading supervisor. Um, Reading and writing needs to be taught for more than an hour a day, and it should be broken up into segments and not focused on the very beginning when students are tired or before recess or lunch when they're distracted. It needs to be an all-day thing integrated into their other subjects they're learning, and that goes right into the cross-curricular reading. As teachers are preparing for their history lessons and their science and math, they should be looking at materials and need to be looking at materials that help with reading with that as well. And last thing is also challenging students to read more. Um, and one of the solutions I have for that is something called AR. It's an online reading program. It stands for Advanced Reader, and I'll get into more details about that. Um, Another thing we need to do is we need to make sure we have professional development for all our teachers about what those current reading practices are and how they can implement them. And the last thing is to make reading a school culture issue. This isn't just something that just happens in the classroom. It needs to be an all day thing that we're doing. Um, some of the ideas I have for that would be implementing some school competitions for reading, where during the month of October or something like that, and we'll say maybe a couple times a year, classes compete to see how many books they can read during the month, and the winning class gets a pizza party for their class or a ice cream social or something like that. Just something fun to do to help students just read more. Because as students read more, their scores will go up and their reading ability will increase as well. Another thing with that too is maybe having some community events where students and their parents can come in to see what classrooms are like and how we're doing reading in our classrooms. Um, Something as simple as just a theme night where teachers each take some theme and they read a book about that theme or something small, and some have some has some activities about it that last maybe like 15 minutes per station, and they do 3 stations or something. That way, parents can come in and see what's going on in our classrooms and how we're addressing this problem. How do I propose to implement this? A big thing is making sure the PTO knows what we're going to do. That way they can communicate it to parents, and teachers will obviously know because I'll present this to teachers as well. But getting the full backing and support from both sides is going to make a big difference in getting this stuff up and running. Part of this whole thing as well is we're applying for a grant that'll help with the reading programs, and using some of that grant money to purchase AR as a means of increasing students' reading level. Um, Another thing would be another way to do this is making sure students receive the data they need. They need to know how they've done the previous years by looking at those students' data, and also need to know what students are coming in and where their ability is. Um, tying into that, being able to, I need to sit down with each individual teacher and help them set goals for how they can improve students' reading in the classroom that year. And then once I know those goals, going through and doing some random walkthroughs through their classes to monitor how they're teaching the reading and how much they're doing. Um, and the last thing is um, school evaluations are usually based on a school-wide goal or a professional growth plan, and making that a goal for reading would be a huge added benefit and would give a lot of motivation for a lot of teachers, knowing that their evaluations are tied to them teaching reading and helping students succeed. And then just some other things. I mean, having some grade level team competitions, just having classroom competitions makes things a whole lot more fun, and there's more buy-in from teachers and for students with that. And then also just letting students know like what books teachers are reading and getting them to read more. It makes it more fun when they feel like they're a part of this. So how am I promoting success for all students, and how am I resolving these different issues? So the first thing is I mean, obviously the big problem is with students, and we need to focus on the students with it. The AR program by Renaissance is designed to support struggling students and get their grade level, the reading up to grade level, and also to push advanced students to keep going forward and keep improving themselves. Each book that's on the program has so many points for it, and it's all based on the grade level that it is. Um, and as we tie this to their grades and have them, have teachers set goals for them where they need to collect so many points from this program per quarter or trimester, whatever it is, however we separate grades, will push students to get those. They'll be reading more to get those points, and they may be reading little books that are a little more difficult to get those points. So those students that are struggling will be pushing themselves to get up to where they need to be, and students that are advanced that are doing really well will push themselves because they're not being held back by their classmates. They can choose what books they want to read. There's over 200,000 books and newspaper articles or news articles on that program, and so there's an endless supply almost of what they can read. There's something they'll be interested in, they'll want to do. Having community events really stresses the importance of reading for everybody. Like students know that, hey, this is such a big thing. We want your parents to come in and see. We want teachers to be here for this stuff. It also allows parents to come in and see what those strategies are that we're using and that we're being proactive. Um, Spending more time during the day teaching reading and breaking that up will give kids more opportunities to read as well, which further enhances how much they're doing and finding something they're interested in that they want to read about. And then the last thing is the cross curricular readings expose kids to those different kinds of readings and strategies. It gives them a chance to explore different avenues, that reading isn't just about fiction, about fantasy or whatever, that it can be about the nonfiction things, the biographies. They can learn about people or places or topics. So there's something they'd be interested in. I use a lot of data that really I feel support of this plan. First thing, I mean, obviously was looking at the test scores, the data showing that our reading has been decreasing the past 3 years and the grade to grade stuff. I looked at a lot of perception data, the fact we got that letter from the parent teacher organization about that they're frustrated and they know this is a problem, we need to fix it. Getting the data from the reading supervisor as well about the teaching methods and how we need to change those. And then just outside of the case study that I was reading, looking at data from Renaissance for Accelerated Reader, lots of case studies have been done, and studies have shown that this is a program that works and it stretches students to perform and do better. And the last thing, I definitely use the different demographic data to support a lot of things that I found, especially the fact that there's 15% of students on free and reduced lunch, those that were not in an area where there's lots of poverty, which usually means there's a lot more support at home from parents. So bringing these community ideas and having them come in the evenings with their students and participate in these community events will help increase their test scores and their reading ability. So some personal thoughts. I'm a parent, so I know and I really follow this trend about the reading scores and how we can help students to read better. My son, who just finished kindergarten, is a very advanced reader. He's already reading at a third grade level, and it's mainly due to the fact that we just read with him at home. At the end of the year, when we went in for his kindergarten graduation, we saw how other students were reading in his classroom, and He had two different teachers this year, and seeing how his reading was affected by those two teachers, we know this is a big, huge issue, and we're doing what we can as parents, and that's, as an administrator, this would be something that I really need to focus on, is getting that reading up, because everything gets better when it comes to reading. Some unresolved issues are a lot of things that I just don't know how we'd affect it with, or how we would affect this. Um, to really it, to really make this better, we would have to spend a couple years to really see how this is working, and then make some more changes after that. Usually, it takes about 3 to 5 years to really see any changes, and so parents and students and teachers would need to know that we have to take that time. Also, getting teachers to buy in is really difficult a lot of times. And then the last thing I really, really don't know is, what's the teacher turnover like? Are we getting a lot of new teachers to the school? Um, do a lot of them stay? How old are these teachers? How new are they? How open are they to change is pretty much what it is. Just spending some time to reflect on how I did. How was I an agent for continuous improvement, and how I involve all parties? Obviously, with my action plan, it's going to better all teachers with their reading methodology. I'm getting parents involved in their children's education, having them come in for community events, having them come in to see how we're actually addressing this issue. We want to make it better. And the last thing is, and the most important one I feel, is helping students who are below grade level and above grade level. There's no differentiation right now, and we need to change that. Students that are struggling need the supports, and students that are excelling need more supports as well. And I think bringing in that AR program really helps create that students can choose what they want to read, and they can push themselves to be better readers at their own pace. But it's also tied to their grade. And so they know that they need to complete these things, and they need to get these different scores and read different books, and push themselves to get up to where they should be. I use a lot of data for this. I used it from all four measures. I looked at the demographics, the school makeup, free and reduced lunch, and English language learners. I looked at the student learning stuff, just looking at the standardized scores for the past 3 years and the individual grade levels. Looking at the school processes from the district reading supervisor, the observations they had in classes. And then also finally the perceptions, the PTO meeting in the letter. Knowing that parents know that there's a problem, they want it to be addressed. Um, Really, when it comes to the policies and laws and regulations, I know that a lot of changes can't be put into effect unless there is data behind it that shows that it needs to be changed. And so we have that data that we need. Um, all the changes that I would be making are in accordance with best practices. And then finally, the transparency, the fact that we're allowing teachers to come in and parents to come in to see what the changes we're making, shows that we're transparent and that they can see what we want to do. And then another thing is how I establish the ongoing dialogue. First off, looking at all the different measures of data, I listened to all the voices and parties that were involved. We had the district reading supervisor, we had the parents, we had the students. Creating these cultural events allows parents to come in and actually participate with the reading activities, allows them to see what's going on. And so their voice is being heard, and they can also see what's happening. That makes a huge difference and allows that dialogue to occur. And last thing is bringing in the outside help from that the district reading supervisor. That's having them come in to see what the practices are, what they were in the past, and what they are right now. Even we can continue having them come in and making sure the changes that we have are really affecting what's going on in the school. And with that, I thank everyone for listening, and have a great evening.